Ugh. Ow. Oh, I feel like I got hit by a bulldozer being driven by Thor. The hell? In order to help with my medical research, the following organs have been removed from your body. 1 heart. Oh, so it has. P.S. As compensation, please accept this coupon for a 99-cent refill of a coffee at any Dunkin' Donuts participating in the United States. Huh. This is expired! This act of pure exploitation and gore can only be the work of one person. Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. Okay, so today's horror-themed review of manga and anime is going to be about a series that I haven't really talked about on my channel. It's not really mainstream as much, but it's one of my favorite series, and I really hope you check it out because it is really cool, especially for October, something to read around Halloween. It's a great series for that. The series is called Franken Fran, and you could probably even tell by the title that this series is going to be probably a little bit heavy on the gore. It is a seinen series, so it's aimed for more of a male adult audience, so some of the images I show from the chapters and everything might be a little bit more gory than what you're used to from typical shonen. I'm not going to show anything too graphic, but, just, be warned if you're a little bit squeamish, because some of this stuff does go into detail. But that's just what I love about the series so much. Probably the best way for me to start explaining this series to you guys is explaining the origins of this man, Professor Madariki. In the series, he's described to be somewhat of a medical genius in the field. He's able to cure diseases and perform operations that no doctor could ever hope of doing, and he's basically a genius in this field. However, the series is not focused on him. In fact, we never even find out what he looks like. The series is instead focused on his greatest creation, Fran, who is I want to say Frankenstein-esque thing, because that's obviously what they're going for here. You can tell by the electrodes sticking out of her head and the stitches all over her body. Although I have to say that Victor Frankenstein probably should have taken a few lessons from Professor Madariki, whereas Victor Frankenstein ended up with a lumbering ogre that could barely speak a coherent sentence. Professor Madariki ended up creating a cute teenage girl that is able to not only think and feel like a normal human would, but she's also able to perform medical miracles with her 6 hands. Yeah, that is awesome. The funny thing is, we never really find out exactly where she came from, why Professor Madariki created her, why, what is she even made out of? Is she made out of dead bodies? We never really find that out. I mean, I'm not really complaining there, but I'm just saying it's interesting. It's just like, first chapter, she's just living in this mansion, watching it for him while he's out traveling, and every time someone comes to her with a medical issue, or sometimes she goes to the people that need the help with a medical issue, she does it, usually ending up in horrible, horrible results. But she does it. Sometimes, now, people can be split on whether you view Fran as a protagonist or an antagonist. Her character, to me, is very likable. She represents a doctor who is, she is in love with medical science. She's actually, honestly, a little bit scalpel happy. Like, she'll operate on people just for the sake of operating on them. She's like that. But the fact of the matter is, she views life as kind of more of a quantity over quality, if that makes sense. For example, she will gladly cut a person up and make their lives hell if it just means keeping them alive for a couple extra hours as opposed to just letting them die on the street. She's that kind of person, and that does happen a lot. Other times people will come to her and they'll ask for medical treatments that are simply breaking the boundaries between humans and gods and are asking her to do something that is physically impossible, and it ends up terrible for them. For example, I'm not going to go into great detail for spoilers, but there's at least 3 stories in this series. It's a 61-chapter series. There's at least 3 stories that involve Fran either trying to work on a guy that's immortal, or someone asks for them, hey, can you make me immortal? Because that's like the one thing that human beings are always trying to strive for. They're always trying to get out some way of dying, because everybody dies eventually. I gotta find some way crazy out of this. So they always ask her, and honestly, it always kind of works out in the beginning, like actually have found a cure for like eternal youth or something. There's a lot of medical jargon in the chapters. They actually do explain in great detail a lot of times exactly what the procedure does, what kind of chemicals she uses, how it affects the body in terms of like, cells and proteins and all that stuff. So it is very in-depth. But the chapters always end with a great twist, and that's probably the best thing I love about this series is the way these chapters end. They are just amazing. You want to just go read chapter 2. Go read chapter 2 of this series. You don't have to worry about catching up on, you don't even have to read chapter 1 because it doesn't really build up the character that much. Like I said, each chapter or episode is like their individual little thing. So go read chapter 2. That twist ending is one of the most goriest, twisted, demented things of a human mind, but it's just so great to read that. So it might be kind of hard for you to understand this series just from like the scattered synopsises I'm giving of you of the characters and the plots. So instead, I'm going to go into 3 specific stories into Franken Fran. It's a 60-chapter series. These are going to be a little bit spoiler heavy. I'm going to try to avoid giving away the endings. But these are 3 stories that are some of my favorites. And if you want to start reading the chapters, if you want to start reading the series, start with these chapters because they're really good. So here we go. Chapter 4, Cosmetic Surgery. So this is actually one of the few chapters where Fran actually goes to public school. Yes, Fran does go to school, and before you ask, no, nobody ever asks the question of why she's covered in stitches from head to toe, or the fact of why she has 2 huge electrodes sticking out of her skull. They just assume it's normal, moving on. And the best way for me to describe this chapter is, whenever you're a teenager, and this might not be you personally, but a lot of people when they're teenagers, they like to rebel. They like to do things that are beyond the norm. It's like, hey, maybe I should go and get my face pierced in like 16 different directions. Maybe I should go get a tattoo that'll, a huge tattoo over my entire back. These crazy ideas that come into teenagers' minds a few years down the line when why did I get that mohawk in high school? That was so stupid, Well, this chapter is like, what if the teenagers had the access to perform any surgery they wanted because Fran is going to school with them? And that's exactly what happens. Every single teenager in this school figures out, Fran can perform surgeries, and they go up to her and ask her all these crazy stuff they want done to their bodies. In the long run, they're going to regret down the road, but right now, because they're teenagers and just idiotic, they're doing it. And it's not like Fran is just doing this just to mess with them. She genuinely thinks this is what they want. Maybe it's because she's not as social as like a standard person is, or maybe because she just wants to mess with them. That would actually be more of the funnier play there. But like someone comes to her and asks her, I'm fat, I want to be thin. Fran's like, well, have you considered exercise? No? Alright, get on the operating table, scalpel. That's basically how she performs it. And some of these operations that these kids ask for are just insane. This one kid gets spikes put into his head. This one kid gets these freaky tattoos over like 100% of his body. This other chick gets breast implants that her back would break in a millisecond if this was in real life. Then again, this is Fran we're talking about here, so she probably did something else like to modify her back. I would not put that beyond her in a second. There is a subplot in this chapter involving 2 specific high schoolers and their love life, but that's the main plot of the chapter, so I'm not going to go into that. But just the way it ends, and this isn't really a spoiler because you kind of could have seen this coming, is basically where Fran doesn't go back to the school. She just stops going to school and goes back to her regular life in the laboratory, and someone asks her, oh, well, what would happen if one of the students regretted what they wanted done and they wanted it reversed? And Fran's just like, they're adults! They know what's best for them, right? That is the biggest burn you could possibly give. Yeah, lady, good luck with your long, slender man-like limbs. I'm sure that'll come in handy when you're 36 and looking for a boyfriend. Chapter 37, 2 Dimensions. Let me just start off this one with a question. And you don't have to be, a crazy otaku to answer this question. It's just a standard question that I'm sure a lot of people probably have an answer to. If you're a fan of manga and anime, have you ever been watching it, and it doesn't matter if you're male or female, have you seen a character in a series that you genuinely think is attractive? Or you kind of think, oh yeah, she's a, attractive character. It doesn't matter that they're in 2 dimensions. It doesn't matter that their bodies could not exist on this planet. I'm sure someone at some point has seen a character like that in in an animation or in a manga that they genuinely like. And in case you're wondering, yes, Urza from Fairy Tail. Urza from Fairy Tail. Awesome. Anyway, this chapter starts off with a young model approaching Fran. She asks her if it's possible that she could perform a surgery to make her look more like a character from a shoujo manga that a guy she's trying to impress reads and is a fan of. So yeah, this girl probably has a few little mental cognitive issues going on where she looks at this guy she wants to impress and her first thought is, yeah, I'm gonna go get my eyes enlarged to make myself look like a 2D fictional character. Maybe a little bit messed up. And this is one of the chapters where Fran is actually genuinely enthralled by the story. This happens a lot where, someone will come up to Fran and ask, oh, could you please, surgically remove my arms because that's what my boyfriend likes. And Fran will be like, start crying, and she'll be like, oh, it's such a lovely love story. Get on that operating table. Let's cut you open. That's, she does have emotions like that, but they do get a little bit twisted and demented at times. But in this series, this chapter, it kind of works. She does perform operations on the girl. She does have to modify her face a little bit. They go into great detail about that, how you have to surgically remove part of her jaw and her bone structure around her eyes. But the first operation makes her look she's still semi-normal, and yet she does look more like this character. But then she goes a little bit more further. She wants to look more and more like this character. She basically wants her head to be disproportionate from her body. Fran ends up having to remove her lower jaw, her teeth, her freaking tongue has to be shortened, just all these crazy stuff, and she even says if you do any strenuous activity, this is going to shorten your life considerably. You have to soak in this certain saline solution for a certain time of day or else your body will dissolve. Are you sure you want this done to yourself? Yes, of course, because then I'll get a boy to like me. Okay, get on the table. So that's the premise of this story, and I'm not going to spoil the ending of this one because the ending is just, it works on so many levels. Just go read that. Great chapter right there. Chapter 60, Right and Left. This is a chapter that actually pertains to Fran herself being the subject of medical fascination in the chapter. This does happen occasionally, but it's really cool. So the chapter opens with Fran working at a construction site. Don't ask me why she's there. We never get a great explanation. When a construction laser accidentally misfires, don't ask me why they have a construction laser. I guess that's just a thing in construction sites over in Japan. Which then cuts her straight down the middle vertically. Huh. Yeah, now, I'd say my heart stopped beating from the pure epicness of that scene, but is kind of a moot point at this moment. Yeah, so as you could probably imagine, though, because of Fran's body structure and because she's an artificial created being, this does not kill her. It actually takes a lot to kill her. She's basically nigh indestructible. But it does basically split her brain right down the middle, and her brain still functions as a normal human brain, so the right and left cortexes actually serve different functions. The right side, I believe, is the good side, like the more affectionate one, and the left side is the more assertive one. So the chapter goes with, instead of them rejoining the bodies right away, Fran actually decides that it might be actually more beneficial for her to have two bodies to work on cases, until eventually each one's respective personality starts taking over. The good side, the right side, tries to perform a bunch of operations to help as many people as possible because she's really compassionate, but this ends up her being overwhelmed by everyone trying to ask her for this, and is eventually confronted back by the left side, who then shares a very awkward kiss, I guess, from this scene. Now, it is a seinen series, so I wouldn't put it past it, but what do you even call that when you make out with yourself? I'm sure there's a term for that somewhere. Some demented place. So at the end of the chapter, as you can probably imagine, Fran gets put back together into two halves and happily ever after. Though it is a great chapter if you want to read, just based off of, they go into great detail that I left out of just how the brain functions, and it's just really interesting stuff from that chapter alone. So that's the basic review I got right there. I know I might have kind of scattershotted it trying to explain this to you guys. I'm really sorry if it didn't make much sense. This is a series that not a lot of people know about, and I just wanted to, show you everything as much as I could think of right off the bat. So there you go. It does not have an anime yet, though there are a few audio dramas if you want to listen to. The audio dramas are actually pretty good if you can find them on YouTube. If it does get made into an anime, I would just love it. It's just amazing. There's other characters I left out in this short review. The other characters are great too. Fran ends up having a little sister later on. She ends up having a bigger sister that the Doctor also created. Those are great chapters dedicated to them. And it's all around just a great series. It finished in July. I thought it would be a great time to start doing a review. It's a perfect thing for my Halloween stuff I'm doing this month. So, it's a great series. Go check it out at your own disclosure. Wait a second. I just thought of something. Fran is a really demented surgeon, but there's no way she could remove my heart and me still be functioning. Oh God, no. If Fran didn't do it, then that means... Oh crap. There's only one more person in the world of anime that could possibly have done this to me. Law, you bastard!